Today was a nutty day in free agency, day 2. Randy Gregory, one of the top available pass rushers, had to deal with the Cowboys, but when it came time to sign it, Randy Gregory didn't like some of the language in there. Specifically, his agent didn't like the language in there, and the Denver Broncos, who need some pass rushers now that the Chargers are beefing up their pass rush, and the Chiefs kept Frank Clark, and the Raiders have Max Crosby. So Randy Gregory joins the Denver Broncos on a 5-year, $70 million deal with $28 million guaranteed. And I don't know how many of the specific details are out there, Charean. That's what I've been trying to nail down. But there's something about the language of the Cowboys contract that jeopardized Randy Gregory's guaranteed money. The Broncos didn't insist on that language, and sometimes it's that simple. And if that's the case, my response is that's how it's supposed to work. You know, you negotiate, and if one team is taking a hard line on something that a player doesn't like and another team isn't, them's the breaks. That's what happens, and that's what negotiation's all about. That's what free agency's all about. If the Cowboys wanted to keep him from leaving, they should have used the franchise tag. They had that available to them, and they didn't. So they had to compete with other teams, and if another team is going to give better language in the contract than what the Cowboys will, it's one of the risks you take by trying to cram onerous language down a guy's throat.
Well, and Mike, it's something that you've talked about repeatedly, that nothing is done until it's signed, and it's something you've warned about. These deals we're hearing about with players changing teams are not, they're just agreed upon, but they're not binding until the player actually signs the deal, and that hasn't been done when a player changes teams, and it obviously hadn't been done with Randy Gregory, despite the Cowboys announcing the deal. The Cowboys are not happy, and you can understand that from their standpoint. They thought they had a deal with Gregory. They say it's the same language they use in every contract they do, including with Dak Prescott. However, with Randy Gregory, it is a risk. I mean, when you look that he was suspended 14 games in 2016, the entire 2017 season, the entire 2019 season, the first 6 games of the 2020 season. So it is a risk for Randy Gregory. Broncos gave him the exact same deal, which actually, if you factor in the state income tax, is less money. But it's presumably, it's not done until it's done. We realize until tomorrow, but presumably this is now where he's going. He's leaving Dallas to go to Denver. And that hurts the Cowboys unless they can find a pass rusher to replace him, a Von Miller or someone else. And we know their MO in recent years is not to sign these big-name guys.
You would really be disappointed about Von Miller playing for the Dallas Cowboys. I can already tell that would be a problem for you. Texas A&M, all-time great, arriving with the Dallas Cowboys. But the thing to remember, too, is because Randy Gregory had played for the Cowboys, he could have signed his contract with Dallas before 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. No. He can't sign with Denver before 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So I guess in theory the Cowboys could say, hey, we'll sweeten the pot. Now that becomes problematic for the player. It becomes very problematic for the agent because you need to be able to trust the agent. And that may be why the Cowboys are upset because, you know, we got a deal. Well, we got a deal until I see the language in here that puts my guy at greater risk of having his injury, or not his injury guarantees, but his guarantees voided. And I guess injury guarantees would apply as well. There's language in these contracts, and it's standard for all teams. Some teams have different standard language than others. Some teams have stronger language that jeopardizes that guaranteed payment, and in some cases, that guaranteed payment is what saves a guy's roster spot. In some cases, if you don't have the guarantee, a guy gets cut if the team's on the fence about what to do. So it's an important term. And in theory, the Cowboys or anyone else could try to lure Randy Gregory, but I think that's like a cannon. You can only shoot it one time, and it probably wouldn't be a good idea for Randy Gregory to step away from this deal with the Broncos because it does create a lot of problems. It creates hard feelings. Like you said, the Cowboys have hard feelings, and other than Von Miller, pass rushers aren't easy to find. Von Miller's the only guy out there that you could plug right in and have the confidence he's going to be great. They may have to just hope that they get lucky, that they have a Randy Gregory fall to them in the draft, or that they just trip over somebody who ends up being available, somebody who gets cut, who refused to take a pay decrease, whatever. They may have a hard time finding somebody that can come in and replace what Randy Gregory did, Charean.
Yeah, no question, Mike. And you know, the last time the Cowboys lost the number 94 to the Broncos, that was DeMarcus Ware. And I would argue that DeMarcus Ware was obviously a more accomplished pass rusher. Surprised he didn't go in the Hall of Fame this year. But he played his last 3 years with the Broncos. He was 32 when he went there. And it had a great end of his career. Obviously won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning as his quarterback and opposite of Von Miller, and had some really good careers there. Randy Gregory has more upside. He's 29. He's going there. Now, he's never had double-digit sack season. 6 sacks was the most he's had in his career, 2 years, including this past year. So it's not like they're getting DeMarcus Ware, but with the upside and the lack of toll that he's had on his body, Mike, since he entered the NFL, they like the future potential of Randy Gregory, and I could see why. And you're right. The Cowboys are going to have, despite just having the 6 sacks, they're going to have a hard time replacing him unless they do end up with a Von Miller or somebody like that. And they're going to have to dole out a lot of money, obviously, if they're getting Von Miller. And he probably would have to give a hometown discount, which he might be willing to do to come back home. He grew up a Cowboys fan, huge Cowboys fan, and always wanted to go to the Cowboys. So maybe he gives him a hometown discount for a year or two.
And one more point about Randy Gregory. It dovetails with playmakers because one of the essays in the book focuses on the notorious Ontario Smith Whizzinator fiasco, and I use that as the background for expressing my long-held belief that the NFL should not care about guys smoking marijuana on their own time, away from the season. They got 7 months per year that they are off. Why do you care about whether or not guys are smoking marijuana? And they still adhere to it. Now, they have essentially decriminalized it. You can be fined for it. Only in extreme circumstances are you suspended. Randy Gregory was a small handful of guys who got forgotten about when the new CBA was negotiated 2 years ago, before the world was turned upside down with the pandemic. And whether it was Randy Gregory, Martavis Bryant, Josh Gordon, guys who were already caught up in the 1-year suspension, and then you come back and one false move and you're suspended again indefinitely. That doesn't work anymore. That doesn't apply anymore. You only get suspended under the most extreme and unusual circumstances that basically involve sticking your finger in the eye of the internal rehab process when you are testing positive. But just testing positive now doesn't get you suspended, and that's good. They need to get to the point where they get rid of it altogether, and they don't care if guys are smoking marijuana. It's not a PED. It's legal in more and more jurisdictions all the time. It's a stupid, outdated policy, and Randy Gregory has never done anything wrong. He's just had issues with marijuana, and those issues were in the past, and to his credit, he has done pretty well since he's made his most recent return.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.